Alright guys, so today's video is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a discussion video. I've got the receipts, I've got the tea, and we're going to be doing a response video to Caleb from The Insane Reader. He just put a video up on Zenith and all the controversy and drama about negative reviews that's been going on, and just about reviews in general. I feel like the booktube community is kind of self-combusting. There's a lot of drama. I usually try to stay out of it. I'm kind of like, I pretend I'm in my own little bubble, in my own little world, you know, except when I do like collabs and stuff. But like, for real though, like I try to stay out of the booktube tea and the booktube drama that's going on, but this is honestly, I think, such an important conversation, and I just want to give my 2 cents on it. So this is going to be a little bit unfiltered. Like, I didn't, you know, write this all out. It's not scripted like most of my videos are. It may be a bit of a rambly mess, in which case I apologize. I'm going to try to be as concise as, you know, physically possible. Also, I put up on Twitter that I am doing a flash flood of reviews. That's what I'm calling it. But basically, you know, to celebrate 10,000 subscribers, I'm going to be posting 5 reviews in 5 days. That's being pushed a little bit to the weekend. So I apologize for that, but I just wanted to film this and post this as soon as possible because I would love to be a part of this discussion. I think it's a really important one. I definitely think that you should watch Caleb's video on this. I will have that linked below. And then I also think there's another part of the discussion by Francina Simone. She has a few different points to make. I don't necessarily agree with all of them, but you know, it's part of the conversation, so I'll have that linked below as well. And if I see any other people post videos on this discussion, I will link those. You know, feel free to comment if you see any other videos, and I will add that to the description box as that kind of comes about. But I'm really excited to see this discussion on BookTube because it is something that I have kind of wanted to talk about and I think kind of needs to be discussed. So I will start out with Zenith, and then I'm going to kind of broaden it to negative reviews in general. So what you need to know if you are not in the loop about the Zenith review issue is that basically when Zenith came out, because it is written by 2 booktubers, and especially Sasha Alsberg, who is one of the biggest booktubers that there are, a lot of the booktube community is friends with her. So there was not a lot of people who were willing to review it because they knew that they wouldn't be able to remain impartial, and they wouldn't be able to give it a fair review, or they were afraid to read it in case they didn't like it and just didn't want to review it in that case because, you know, it's their friend and they feel pressure to support their friend, and I totally understand that. So when Zenith came out, there were not a lot of the bigger kind of booktubers that were reviewing Zenith. And so, as the Insane Reader pointed out, I'm just going to call him Caleb because Insane Reader is a bit odd for me. So as Caleb pointed out, a lot of smaller booktubers, including myself and him and several other kind of smaller channels that have, you know, a few thousand subscribers or less, they were the ones who were posting the Zenith reviews. And they kind of blew up because there was no one else who was talking about it. And a lot of these reviews were negative reviews, including my own. But the thing is, they weren't, like, none of the ones that I've seen were attacking the authors. They were just discussing the book. And I think for the most part, people have stayed very respectful of that. I definitely tried to. I have no ill wishes to either of the authors. I respect them so much for putting a book out there. I think that is awesome and I'm really proud of them. And, you know, I would never, ever, ever want to attack them. I just didn't like the book. And I think even though it is a long, kind of ranty, very impassioned review, I think I stayed true to just talking about the book and what didn't work for me in the book. And I think that for the most part, people also did that. As things kind of progressed, it became clear that some of the bigger booktubers were very uncomfortable with the amount of negative reviews that were coming out about Zenith, especially the authors, which again, I get, it sucks. Like, these girls put a lot of effort into writing this book, and most of the reviews that are coming out are extremely negative. So I'm sure that that severely sucks. That is probably the worst scenario that they could have imagined. But I went to the Zenith signing, and this was even a thing before the book came out and was like being reviewed. Sasha Alsberg was talking about, and Lindsay Cummings too, actually, both of them were talking about negative reviews. And no hate, like, you know, they're allowed their opinions on the topic, but they did say adamantly during the Q&A section when someone asked about negative reviews, they basically were discouraging negative reviews. They said, we never want to post negative reviews on our channels or our blogs because, you know, we want to be a part of the author world, and so we would never want to attack anyone else. And, you know, they kind of were treating it like, oh, like if you ever want to be published, then, you know, you better not post a negative review because you might be part of this community, or, you know, publishers want to pick you up because you've reviewed their book negatively, which, like, maybe that may be the case. Like, I don't know. But it just felt to me like they were trying to silence as many people as possible from posting a negative review or kind of put the fear in them. Like, it didn't feel very malicious, but it did feel like there was an undertone of like, don't post negative reviews if you want to be part of this industry. And like, they were talking about like only putting positivity out there and stuff. And like, I get that. That totally can be your thing. I'm not saying that's not like, that's fine, you know? If you just want to be positive on your channel, that's completely up to you. I personally think that it is very important to have discussions about novels, like even the books that I like, the movies that I like. I'm all for pointing out aspects of it that I didn't like. I don't think it has to be like, I loved it or I hate it and there's no in between. Like, I can like certain aspects of it and dislike other aspects, and I think that it's important to have these discussions and to analyze the stories that we consume and the art that we consume and kind of reach a better understanding of it, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to do it is by looking at it through a critical lens. That's kind of where I stand is... Sorry, I'm already getting impassioned. Like, I know Caleb was also having a hard time with keeping it... But I know that I'm going to be the same. Basically, my thoughts are this. I value both positive and negative reviews. Positive reviews are great to really get people excited about stories, and it's great to know, like, you can learn a lot from what people did right, and it's the same with negative reviews. Like, if there's a negative review, obviously, like, as long as it pinpoints specific aspects of the story so that it's not just like hate, because like hating is one thing, criticizing is something entirely different. And so as long as it's like criticizing something, I'm for it, because then I know more about it, we can learn from it. It's interesting to discuss those things, and a lot of it is opinion based. Again, as Caleb mentioned, which I think is very important to talk about, there is facts and then there is opinions. And I like to back up my opinions with elements of the text. Like, I try to do that as much as possible so that I have kind of facts to back up my opinion so that you know where I'm coming from. But I think it's very important to be clear that they are my opinions. Like, you can totally like a book that I don't like. You can totally not like a book that I like. That's just how things are. Like, I am a different person than you. We're gonna have different experiences. We're gonna be attracted to different things in story and relate to different things, and that's just how it is. So I never ever ever want to imply that you can't like something that I dislike. You can't not like something that I like that. I want to be very clear that on my channel I talk about my opinions. That is what a review is. I talk about opinions and my thoughts on a piece of story or a piece of art. Moving on from there, basically what Caleb was talking about, and which I've kind of seen firsthand, is that a lot of smaller booktubers were fearful about posting negative reviews because A, there was a lot of people saying that smaller reviewers just wanted to cash in on all of the negativity and surrounding Zenith and jump on the bandwagon and just, you know, get a lot of views and all of that. Here's the thing with that statement. It's like, if there's like a conversation going on about a book, like, I generally like to be involved in that. If there's a lot of like controversy going on around a book, I generally tend to like gravitate towards that book. I want to read it, I want to know my thoughts on it, and if I have anything to add to the conversation. I actually read Zenith fairly early on after it was published, so I was kind of one of the first ones to have a review up after Caleb and the mid book review by Read Between the Wine. So I was probably between the 5th and 10th person to have a Zenith review. I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but that's how it seemed to me at least, which is why I think my Zenith review kind of blew up, because there wasn't that many people who had reviewed it yet. And I definitely went very in-depth in my review, so I think that's why people kind of liked it and gravitated towards it, was because it was a very in-depth look at Zenith. But the thing is, like, yeah, I just wanted to be a part of that conversation. Like, people were already talking about it. And so I read the book and I didn't like it. And like, I knew, because the two authors are both members of this community, that there was gonna probably be some controversy around it and that people would be less inclined to review it, so that's why I reviewed it, because I thought it was important to share my opinions, especially because not a lot of people had talked about it yet. We're part of a community that talks about the same kind of books, and when people are talking about these books, like when there's hype, people want to be a part of that. So I do not get people who are saying like, oh, they just wanted to jump on the bandwagon. It's like, well, yeah, like that's what this community is. We all talk about the same kind of books. Like, we are, for the most part, reading very similar books and trying to be a part of the conversation about these books. Like, that's kind of what this community is all about. So that I don't understand. There's also people saying that like, oh, you know, it's just like people are just trying to like get money and subscribers from this, which like, yeah, obviously like that's, you know, part of the reason why we're on BookTube is to get money and subscribers. Like, obviously, like, we want an audience, so like, but like, no, like, I obviously made a 40-minute video on Zenith because I had things to say. I don't think that they need to be mutually exclusive. Like, I think that you can want a video to get views and you can want to grow an audience without it being like the only reason why you do a video. Obviously, like, I was like, not a lot of people have done a Zenith review, so if I post a Zenith review that's very in-depth, might get some views. Like, I literally, yeah, I had the thought. So what? Like, yeah, sorry. But I also had things to say, and I think that it's clear with most of the people that are posting these reviews that they do have things to say. That's most of the controversy around Zenith in particular. Basically, not a lot of the bigger channels wanted to review it, so the smaller channels did. And then they were attacked by Sasha's fans as well as some of the bigger booktubers, because there was a lot of negativity going around, but that may be because a lot of people just didn't like the book. I just don't think that that should be pinned on the negative reviewers necessarily, and maybe perhaps instead it should be pinned on the book. Again, no problem with you liking the book if you did. That's totally fine, but a lot of people didn't, and that's also fine. And I simply do not think that we should fault people for wanting to be a part of the conversation when that's literally what this community is about. Okay, so moving on from Zenith, I'd kind of like to open this up a bit, because I think that there are a few other things that we can discuss about negative reviews in general. Because here's what I've noticed. With Zenith, I did get more, like, I felt a negative kind of undertone, or an undertone of like taboo-ness about talking about Zenith. Not necessarily from the viewers, like from you guys, but just within the community. It was like, oh, like, you're talking about Zenith, you're doing another review. Like, I feel bad for the people who didn't quite get on it as fast as some of the first people did, because, yeah, it's like, oh, another negative review, and it's like, yeah, whatever, like, again, that's what this community is about. I felt a lot of that kind of stuff within the community, but from viewers in general, like, there are books that I've reviewed that I've gotten way more hate about because they're just popular books. And like, again, I get that. And the thing is, like, I don't really talk about this on my channel because I'm not really bothered by it. Like, I get so many mean comments at me though, like coming at me. And like, even though I make a point to never attack the author, just the work. And if I ever, you know, if I ever slip up, call me out, like that, because that's never what I want to do. I literally just want to talk about the work. Even though I pride myself in doing that and try to do that always, because it's not cool to go after the author. Like, that's just not a cool thing to do. I know when I post a negative review, I am going to get a slew of comments, especially when it's a popular book, which most of my negative reviews, they are. And it's the same with the movies, but I think to a slightly lesser degree, except for perhaps Star Wars, because that's a popular fan favorite and very controversial. It was a bit of a hot topic when that came out. But the thing is, like, I get it. Like, I don't condone it. I think that it's horrible, but I know that it's gonna happen because it's the internet. But the thing is, like, yeah, when I dislike a popular thing, that's when I feel like the viewers are the ones coming at me. And, like, that's when I get those, like, malicious, horrible comments directed at me. I'm gonna kind of pull up a few comments that I'd like to address. But just so you know, there is going to be some foul language, and by foul I mean truly foul, because I'm just reading the comment. So a lot of the comments coming at me came from 3 reviews, and that would be the Throne of Glass review, the Red Queen review, and the Star Wars review. So this one is from Throne of Glass, and I just like to talk about it a little bit. It's not actually that mean though. It's nothing against you, but you need to remember that Sarah J. Maas was barely out of secondary school when she wrote this. So for her age, this is incredible. Also, I personally love this book and the rest of the series, so you can go to hell with your opinions. So this is one of those types of comments that I get all the time, and there's gonna be more in there. Like, I think I have 8 comments that I kind of want to address, and those are just 8 that I kind of grab. Like, there's way more that I could have grabbed, but I wanted to get this video done, so I only did a little bit of sifting. I get this kind of comment all the time where it's like, oh, you're entitled to your own opinion because I am forced to say that, but then at the end or in the middle they're like, yeah, but your opinion is stupid and go to hell. Then just say that. Like, don't even start it with you're entitled to your own opinion or I respect your opinion or whatever. Like, it's like, no, you don't. You clearly don't. But I think, you know, people need to remind themselves that, yeah, it's just an opinion. I'm allowed to disagree with you. You're allowed to disagree with me. In fact, if I dislike something and you like it, I am sincerely happy for you, because obviously liking things is a lot more enjoyable than disliking them. So I'm glad that you liked it. I feel it. I get it. Like, when someone dislikes and attacks a book that I really like or a movie that I really like, I'm like, really, guys? Like, what the hell is wrong with you? But, like, you just gotta remind yourself sometimes. It's the book. It's a movie. Like, you don't need to attack a person or, like, basically imply that their opinion is stupid or dumb or wrong simply because you don't share the same opinion. Because at the end of the day, again, it's just an opinion. People are allowed to disagree with each other. Another point that I would like to address in that specifically was, I got that all the time, that it's like, oh, Sarah J. Maas was young when she wrote this, so for her age, that's incredible. And it's like, sure, but at the same time, like, do I really care? Like, I spent money on this book. Like, I don't care how old the author is. I just want a good book, you know? Okay, so this one is one of my all-time personal favorites. It's actually 2 comments, but this was also on the Sarah J. Maas Throne of Glass video. Well, I know why you hate this book, you YouTube slut. 1, the book was the most popular book in your school library, and a book about your shitty fucking ass life was next to it not getting checked out, while Thrones was getting checked out. Another reason why you hate it is because you can't read for shit, stupid bitch. Oh, and I think you'd get at least 1 dick in your mouth if you'd get some braces. For fuck's sake, your teeth are a nightmare. Okay, so obviously that one was a little bit more intense. Definitely more of a personal attack, as I'm sure you could tell. Again, I'm allowed to have my opinion, and I think it's important, like, when you're sitting at a keyboard and you're gonna write something malicious, like, remind yourself that someone's gonna read that. Like, especially because back then I didn't have that many subscribers. Like, now, I mean, I still read all my comments. I don't know if I should be saying that because I feel like I'm just, like, opening myself up for more hate by saying that. But anyway, I do read my comments. I especially did back then when I had like 1,000 subscribers. So obviously he knew that I was gonna read that. I think it's a he, I don't know. I just kind of assumed that from the voice of it. I guess my point is this. When you're sitting at a keyboard, it's very easy to be like, this is some person. They're putting themselves out there, so it's totally fine if I write something that is kind of a jerk thing to say. And it's like, nah, that's not cool. Like, you know, like, people are allowed to disagree, but you don't have to be a jerk about it. I guess that's my point with that one. You know, people are still people, even if they're on the internet. So this one I actually just posted on my Twitter because, like, I feel like I had a pretty good response to it. So you can check out my response to this comment on Twitter if you know, follow me and all of that stuff. Because I feel like it was a pretty good, it was like a mic drop response to this. And I actually got him to apologize and delete the comment, which was a win. But basically, this is the comment. Absolutely disingenuous and rubbish review. I am stunned at how much vitriol and misplaced anger seems to slither out of this 20-something nobody Jordan Harvey. Miss Jordan has no literary credentials, no accomplishments to show off, no publishing history, yet she thinks she is qualified enough to do a critique of a book series that has been generally well received and has done well commercially. Of course, Miss Jordan has the right to her opinion, but boy oh boy, her body language during this video, her hand gestures, her gesticulations, the rolling of her eyes, the play of her tongue is immensely grating and cringeworthy. Miss Jordan, you are a nobody who has taken to YouTube to blabber nonsensical gobbledygook about a successful author. Be a professional. If you want to critique someone, then do it civilly. Don't let your inner insecurities seep out for everyone to see. And if you really want to act holier than thou, then first be as accomplished and successful as Aviard. Basically, what I said was this, and what I would like to address is this. As Caleb mentioned, and as I think it's important to remind ourselves, you can critique something and not be an author. Like, it's totally fine to have an opinion on something and not be an author or a movie maker or anything. You are totally allowed to do that, especially because I feel like I put a lot of effort into making my reviews as thorough as possible and backing up what I have to say with evidence from the text, and yeah, just trying to be as thorough as I possibly can. So it's not even like I'm just hating on things just to hate. I try very hard to make sure that my reviews are the best that they can be. So saying that I can't have an opinion because I'm not as successful as Miss Aviard, that is crazy to me. Like, a lot of critics who are professional critics are not movie makers, are not authors, they're just people who know how to review things. And I know personally that my reviews have gotten a lot better at like the longer I've been on YouTube. My first reviews are kind of garbage. I get that. I feel like my reviews are kind of getting to a place where I feel like they're pretty good. So saying that, you know, I'm not allowed to have an opinion because I'm not published, like, what? Like, where is that coming from? And I get this all the time. It's like, be as successful as so-and-so before you are allowed to speak of this. And it's like, no, I'm just allowed to speak of it. That's this whole like free speech thing. It's kind of part of the bag. My tea's ice cold. So I'd just like to repeat this a few times because it's important. You are allowed to have an opinion on a book or movie without making a book or movie. You are allowed to have an opinion and critique a book or movie without having written or made a book or movie. That's it. So in that same vein, here's another one that kind of goes along those lines. This girl is ridiculous. She's bashing the characters way too much. They're not as bad as she makes them seem. And yeah, Mare is going to be swept into the silver world. And yeah, it's predictable. It's in the frickin' blurb, which I say in the video. I'm like, it's fine that the beginning is a bit predictable. I actually say that in the review. I'm like, yeah, that's totally fine. You know, as long as the other things are good, which they weren't, I'd be okay with that. But, you know, whatever. There would be no storyline if that didn't happen. Stop bashing people who do actually manage to get somewhere and do something in the world and go do some hard work. Then come back and be a bitch. I'd like to just talk about the fact that making good reviews, is work. I read a book and throughout I make notes. Afterwards, I generally tend to discuss the book with someone who's also read the book so that we can kind of jam. Then I write down all of my thoughts and kind of start to make a script. Then I kind of see what other people are saying so that I can make it a little bit more of a conversation and talk about and reference what kind of other people are saying and the general reaction to it, so that I know kind of how it's being perceived and all of that stuff. And then I go back to my script and edit that in to make sure that, you know, it's all good. I fact check, then I have to get pretty and film the review, then I have to edit the review, then I have to post the review. This is not like something where it's like, oh, I'm just gonna, you know, rant at a camera. Yeah, I enjoy all of this. I really genuinely do. It's not like work for me, but it's also not like not work, you know? So that's one of the things that I wanted to mention. It's like, oh, maybe you should do some hard work. It's like, yeah, what if I already am? Just saying. This one's actually just funny. Like, I just wanted to include this because it's funny, not because I actually have anything to say about it. Haha, you are the most uptight chick I've ever seen. I bet I could turn coal into a diamond by sticking it up that tight ass of yours, eh? Movie was boring though. Yeah, no, that's just funny. So this is another one that's kind of in the same vein as the ones before, where it's like trying to like invalidate me from having an opinion just because I haven't written a book. It's a good one though. Why is it that everyone picks apart TV shows such as Game of Thrones and book series like Throne of Glass? Like, why not spend your time on something else more important in your lives? Like, this bitch really made a video complaining about someone's writing. She spent years writing this series, etc. And you have the audacity to be an ignorant bitch and criticize her work? Are you a writer? Have you ever been published? No, you haven't, so sit your boring ass down and read something else. Ew. So the point that I'd like to address, besides the whole like, yeah, I don't have to be a writer to criticize things, is that I genuinely think that what I'm doing is important. I think that it is vital to talk about story, because story is such an important way of communicating and understanding the world around us. So by criticizing and analyzing it, I genuinely think that that is important. And I probably would not be doing it otherwise. I think discussion around these things, around our understanding of story and art, is vital to understand it better, to create an interesting dialogue, to have conversations, and to create better stories in art in the future. Like, I think that this is so crucial and key. And so by saying like, oh, you can't be negative because that's such a waste of time, it's like, no, it's not a waste of time. It's actually something that's really important to do. This is something that I feel so passionate about because I see this all the time where it's like, you know, by being negative, you're not adding anything to the conversation, where it's like, no, it's, you know, I am. Like, I'm trying to point out what could be improved upon. I'm trying to, you know, point out what I think is a flaw, what I think is, you know, problematic, or issues that I think are important to discuss as far as politics and, you know, social issues and our understanding of humanity and morality and all of that. I think that is crucial. And without people voicing their negative opinions, we would not be able to have a proper discussion about these things. That's just the bottom line. It's important that we talk about these things and see each other's perspectives. Like, I think that is so key. And that is something that I'd like to emphasize. Like, I get so many people who disagree with me that have amazing comments with amazing perspectives and point of views that differ from my own, but we are able to have a conversation about it like civil human beings and just talk about it and see each other's sides of things. I love that. That is what I love to do in the comment sections of these videos, because I love discussing art. I love discussing all of these things. So I never want to discourage people from disagreeing with me. I invite people to disagree with me. I just want people to do it respectfully as much as possible. Like, I get people get heated, I understand, but just remember that I'm a human, you know, like, and I have feelings too. This one is another one that makes me go insane. Whoever doesn't like Throne of Glass obviously hasn't read the rest of the series and found out she's a really kick-ass fire-breathing bitch queen, but whatevs, you're entitled to your wrong opinion. What drives me mental about this is the implication that I am not allowed to have an opinion on a singular book when I haven't read the whole series. It doesn't work like that. It does not. I cannot like a book without having read the entire series, because I'm only talking about the one book. Like, I don't care if it gets addressed later on. I'm talking about this book. Like, if the character improves later on, or if this gets explained later on, that's fine. Like, cool, good, I'm glad. But if I'm talking about it, it's an issue in the book that I'm talking about. I'm allowed to still have an opinion on that book. Like, it's... that drives me so nuts, because I get that literally all the time, where it's like, oh, you can't have an opinion because you haven't read the whole thing. So it's like, no, that's false. I actually can have an opinion if I'm talking about the book. If I criticize the whole series based on the first book, I could get why you'd be like, why you'd say that and why you'd be angry about that, but I never do. I am literally only talking about the book that I'm talking about. I just thought I'd end it off with another funny one. I'm not actually gonna read the whole thing, because, you know, it's long. I'm just gonna read the opening line. "No one gives a fuck, you prostitute cunt." Well, clearly you're wrong, because I got 10,000 subscribers. If no one cared, would I have videos that have literally thousands, tens of thousands of views? Nah, because people want to have these discussions. You feel? That is all I have for you today. Thank you for tuning into this discussion. I'm sorry if it was a bit of a rant. I hope that I added to the conversation and kind of addressed some of the things that were bugging me, because that was kind of what I wanted to do by reading some of the mean comments. It was just like, talk about the things that I think it's important to keep in mind when having a discussion in the comment sections. That is kind of all I have to say on this discussion as of, you know, right now. I'm excited to see what other people have to say. I think that it's an important discussion to have about Zenith, about negative reviews, about people coming at you. Like, I think this is all very interesting and very important to kind of look at. So I am very excited to see it kind of unfold and see what people have to say. I hope that this is a conversation that kind of continues. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you did like this video and you want to see more discussions like this on my channel, please give this video a thumbs up. If you're new here, welcome. Feel free to subscribe if you like this discussion. And if you want to be a jerk, come at me, because I feel like I handle it a lot better than a lot of smaller booktubers and just people in general, because I'm pretty confident in myself. I'm pretty happy with who I am and whatever. So if you're gonna be a jerk, then do it to me. I'm okay with that. Honestly, I don't really mind. Go right ahead.